Are your knees actually strong when you take them past 90 degrees? Why would you even want to do that in the first place? This video is all about why you need to start training, taking your knees past 90 degrees flexion. So many of us train strength training just to 90 degrees. So what does that look like? Coming into a squat, but stopping when that range of motion through our knees gets to 90 degrees. So what you want to do is expose your knees to its fullest range of motion, and not only be able to do that, but have it strong in that range. Everyday life requires us to take our knees past 90 degrees. Let's just think about it. If you need to get into a chair, my knees are tracking past my toes to get there. If I get out of a chair, my knees have to track past my toes. If I want to tie my shoe up, I've got to take my knees past 90 degrees and I need to get back up. If I want to pick my kid up, if I want to pat a pet, there are just like so many things in everyday life that require you to be strong in this range of motion that you don't want it missing out of your strength program. Not only do we want the passive range of motion, so passive meaning I can bring my foot into, like pull my heel to my butt here, and I'm doing it, but I'm pulling in. So this is passive knee flexion. This would be like, I guess, step one. I might also grab my foot and bring it to my butt, passive knee flexion. So passive knee flexion is great because when you think about it, if we come into just a general kneeling position here, passive knee flexion. So to be able to get on the ground, accessing this position can be really helpful. If you're someone who wants to build up your range of motion so that you can get up and down off the ground with ease, and you want that to become easier, think about the components that you need to make it easier. One of those is being able to have strength in knee flexion, because we're here in a deep squat, it's the same thing. Extreme knee flexion is needed. To get out of the deep squat, I need to stand up out of that deep knee flexion. So there's so many components that we need to work on, but your knees is definitely a point you don't want to miss. So let's test out your knee range. Come onto all fours, where your knees are at 90 degrees, hip width apart, and then from here you can tuck your toes if you like, so it's a little more active. Start to bring your hips back, maintaining that neutral spine towards your heels. So you might get discomfort at this point, at this point, or maybe it's even quite here. So just find that point where you feel like, okay, that is my range of motion. If you find that that's difficult, that might be where you want to work firstly, and just get your body used to it. You might hang here for 1 to 2 minutes. If you want to start making it harder, you can untuck the toes and you can start to work on a full knee kneeling position. If you want to make it even more, you could even start to lean back to try something else. You could also do a toes tucked position, which is a great one to be in, and practice sitting for 1 to 2 minutes in this position. Another way you can practice these sitting positions that need and require knee flexion is sitting on, balancing onto your heels. So we're also working our ankles, but also maintaining that full knee flexion here, just getting our knees strong. And then remember, we're dynamic beings. So even in this position, you might want to start just rotating from left to right. You can even try and take a step forward and back and really play around with these positions. If we don't visit these positions, often, especially as we get older, we lose them. So it's really important that we expose our body to these positions and doing it quite often. You can go into a deep squat from here, bringing your hips back. If this is too hard initially and it's too strong on your knees or your ankles, you can certainly roll up your mat like this. Bring your heels underneath and elevate your heels a little bit, and that should make it a little bit easier. Again, just sitting in these positions for 1 to 2 minutes. I also want to share 3 exercises that you can do to start adding weight and really building strength in these positions, so that not only can you access the range, but you're strong and you can get down in full flexion and get back up in any position that you need to really easily in everyday life. Okay, so the first one is called a knees over toes split squat. So what I would start with is an elevated front foot. And it's a really good way to test how you feel in this position. So grab a chair, a bench, something that's not gonna move. Bring your leg up to the bench here. Make sure your hips are facing forward. If you can have that back heel down, or you can bring it more into a lunge position with the heel elevated. From here, we bend the front leg and we track the knee directly over the toe. The goal here is to get full knee flexion where your thigh is touching your calf. From here, remember, this is active as strength building. We're gonna press away. So to really build up this range, you can start with an elevated front leg, and then you can slowly bring that down. So let's say that bench becomes doable. So now I can grab a block. I can put my front foot on the block, same position here. And then here, bending that front knee, tracking it over, pushing through the heel and pressing away. Good. Then from there, you want to start adding weight and getting to the ground. So once you can get your full range on the ground, you can grab a weight. You can either hold it like a goblet squat, nice and close to the chest, or you can either hold 2 weights either side. So I'll just demonstrate that and you can give that a go to see how you feel. So hip square, back heel lifted, weight nice and close to your chest, spread those toes, track the knee forward as far as you can, little pause, keep the chest upright, push through your heel and press up. Knee tracks into flexion, little pause, drill it back. So what you want to do to start really fortifying that knee strength is building up your weight. So you might do 5 reps each side, maybe 3 to 4 sets with an 8 kilo. Do that for a few weeks. Build it up to a 10 kilo, 12 kilo, 16 kilo, and start to really build up the strength of your knee. The second exercise we're going to work through is a heels elevated squat. I really like this one because I think it's very useful in everyday life. And what you're going to do is first, if you have a half roller or you have something that you can elevate your heels, I've just got a couple of blocks here. You're going to start with the heels elevated right underneath your hips. So we're feet parallel, I've spread my toes out and my chest stays upright. From here, I come down till my butt touches my heels pretty much. Now, we don't want to be slumped in this position. We want to keep our chest up, keep our spine in neutral. And then from this position, I exhale and I press straight back up, really pushing into the heels and through the big toe. Inhale, exhale, pressing away. And then again, we start to add weight. You grab your weight, you get back into your position, and this might be where you build your strength. If it is too much, even to start with getting full range, what I like to do with our students is grabbing 2 chairs or 2 sticks, something you can hold onto either side, and using that for support to push you back up. You might just get to here to start with, and then you push down on the sticks or the chair and press back up. Come down whatever range is pain-free, and then exhale, push back up. So there's always a place to start with these ones, no matter where your knee is at in terms of being able to tolerate flexion, but you can build it up over time. The last exercise that I recommend you start building towards to really fortify your knee strength in full range of motion is moving towards a pistol squat. Basically, that is just a single leg squat, and you can start with this from a chair. You might start with a chair that is at 90 degrees. That might be where you start. If it's even too much to take one leg, just take the weight in one leg. The leg that you're not using, you can just lift the heel so you've got more weight in one leg. So because to get out of a chair, we need to lean forward, the knee tracks over that toe, press through and come up. Hips go back and come down. If you can get to single leg, you lean, press, forward and back. So there's a little shift of the weight. You press through that leg and you come back down with control. And then it's just slowly creeping the floor down. So you might start with 2 blocks and you can sit down here, So obviously, to get out of this position here, I'm in a fair amount of knee flexion. Hands here. If you need to keep that leg down, you can. Obviously, we want to work towards keeping that leg up. I shift forward, I push through my heel, and I stand up. So you will work through just like before, maybe doing 6 to 8 reps. You can do 3 to 4 rounds, and you'll repeat that as you start getting your base lower and lower. If you want a little bridge to progress from, let's say, the chair to something lower, what you might do is just work on the way down here. Get the pattern with that knee so it gets used to that position. Bring the foot down and then press up with 2 legs. Working on that way down is really beneficial for teaching the knee strength in that pattern. A lot of the time, especially if you've had a knee injury, like I've had an old meniscus tear in my leg in my knee, when I initially got that and I had it for a long time, it was really bothering me, I would just avoid bending that leg past 90 degrees. Now, I don't recommend that as an approach for it to get better. What I do recommend is starting to get it safe, feeling safe in greater ranges of motion. And so that's where that negative, practicing the way down, can be really helpful. So I hope I have convinced you to start training strength in greater ranges of motion, especially when it comes to taking the knee past 90 degrees. There is a really old school belief in the strength industry that is still sort of around today that we shouldn't take our knee past 90 degrees when it comes to lifting weights and things like that. But you're really going to suffer in your everyday life if you avoid this range of motion. So what I recommend, firstly, spend more time on the ground. Sitting positions, different sitting positions will naturally take your knees past 90 degrees if you're sitting on the floor more. What I would do is aim to spend at least 10 minutes a day getting on the floor. If it's too much initially on the hips, knees, and ankles, grab a couple of blocks, grab a bolster, grab something to elevate your hips and just make it that little bit easier. That alone is really going to help that range of motion in your knees. Secondly, start strength training. Take those drills I shared with you today and add that to your strength training that you're already doing. Maybe it's combining it as a superset, maybe it's doing it on a separate day where you specifically target greater ranges of motion and maybe mixing in some mobility as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're already training knees over toes and working on exercises like the drills I shared, please let me know. Or if this is something new and you're going to add it to this routine, I would love to hear. Please give this video a like if it was helpful, leave a comment, share it with someone that maybe has some knee issues and can't get up and down off the ground, because this is really a game changer. And I look forward to moving with you soon.